What is an unexplainable memory from your childhood?
When I was about 5 or 6, my younger brother told me he wanted to show me a secret. He was 3 or 4. We waited until no one was around and he started jumping on tramp. He said, "Ready? Watch this," and then hung suspended in the air for about 10 seconds. It sounds crazy, but to this day we both know it happened.
Breathing underwater. Turns out a lot of people have memories of being able to do something similar. Still haven't gotten an explanation.
I swear to God, one time I saw someone, full-sized adult, in an Easter bunny costume in our dining room. This was in my first house, so I had to be 3 or younger because we moved after that. My mom and dad swear no one dressed up, but I know I was awake and saw it. I thought it was magical, mystical as a child, but now my adult mind just remembers it and gets creeped the bleep out.
I used to sleep on the top bunk. I was around 6. It was the middle of the night, and I woke up and looked down to the floor. My toddler sister was walking around the room. I said her name, she looked up at me and vanished. I remember this vividly, down to the pajamas she was wearing. She's alive and in her 30s now, in case anyone thinks I saw a ghost.
OMG. I have a distinct memory of this weird event, but my parents have no idea what I'm talking about. I remember being 7 or 8, standing in a smallish crowd, maybe 50 ppl, alongside my parents, staring at the front porch of a white farmhouse at night while a vibrant green light, almost like a green gelled theater stage light, it was so saturated and bright, shone back in my face. Someone was speaking intensely, maybe like an angry preacher or the way someone whips up an angry group of people. And everyone was staring and super focused on him. I remember all the adults being mad and feeling like something was coming. I can see this so clearly in my mind, and to this day I associate feelings of fear with this memory. But I have no real idea what it was, and my parents swear it never happened. But I still think about it sometimes and it sends shivers up my spine, like I'm forgetting the rest of what happened and it was bad.
I clearly remember my mother explaining to me when I was around 6 or 7 something she called worm box theory. Basically, she explained that supposedly you have a wardrobe full of boxes with worms. Each box represent time and each worm a human being. If you remove a box, you remove a certain time period and the humans that lived during that time. In the same fashion, if you take a worm from one box and put in another or vice versa, you remove or add a person to a different time that the one they lived. I clearly remember with graphic details how she explained how the boxes and the wardrobe works, how the removing and adding work. She seemed like she genuinely believed what she said and claimed that there was a man, God, that control the box, and one day hell say stop and all the worms will stop moving and the fall or sickly ones will die. When he will say begin, they will restart their lives. She claims nowadays that she has no idea what I'm talking about and that such thing never happened.
Probably 8 years old, my mom was looking out the window and said, "Come look at this." When I saw what she was pointing at, it was a silvery orb in the sky, I'm guessing a mile or 2 away, that was moving left then right then closer then farther. Each movement was very quick and probably half a mile in distance. I remember I looked up and said, "What is it?" She said, "I don't know, do you think it's a UFO?" Just then it vanished with a streak, followed by a rainbow flash that instantly went away. Always wondered about it, I actually forgot about it until reading this thread.
I remember being young and always looking for a toy. I never found it, but I also never knew what I was looking for. It baffles me to this day. Why I looked so hard for something I didn't know what it was.
I remember laying in my mom's bed while she was asleep. It was dark, but I could make out the frame of the bedroom door, and it looked like there was a shadowy figure just standing there, probably my mind making things up in the darkness. It must have been at a very young age before I understood fear, because I don't remember feeling anything in particular.
I was outside during recess in kindergarten playing catch with my friend, and I suddenly saw the day turn into night in the blink of an eye. There was no warning or gradual setting, the day simply turned into night. Everyone stopped playing and looked up. I remember my friend's eyes looking at me in horror as my other classmates started to scream. Suddenly, the memory stops. I do not remember anything else that happened after, and I still get goosebumps thinking about that memory.
When I was about 10 years old, I was cleaning my room and had just finished vacuuming. It was a thick kind of carpet that left footprints after it had been vacuumed. After finishing cleaning, I left my room and started walking down the stairs. The door to my room and the stairs were next to each other, so while going down the stairs you can see through the balusters into the room. As I'm walking down the stairs, I see something moving out of the corner of my eye through the balusters. It was a person in a brown monk-like robe with the hood over their head and one of those rope belts. I saw this person walk through the vacuum cleaner and into my closet. I panicked and ran downstairs and straight out the front door where I knew my mom was visiting with the neighbor. They ran upstairs and looked in the closet. No one was there, but there were large footprints that lead into the closet and just stopped there. I'm not a religious person and don't believe in anything supernatural, but I have no explanation for this occurrence.
Not my memory, but my friend's. He was 7 to 8 years old. There was a blackout, so the family lit candles in every room. He was fascinated by the shadows created by the candles in his room. So he made shadow puppets, duck, rabbit, dog, etc. Then he made a shadow of the devil, with his 2 hands forming the face of the devil and his pinkies forming the horns. He was quite satisfied with the shadow, it really looked like the devil. Then he put down his hands, but the shadow remained there. I wouldn't move, even after he tried to create other shadows. He ran to his room and hid underneath the bed covers.
I remember laying in bed one night, staring hard out the window because it was storming pretty bad. All of a sudden, it got even darker than it was and my mom calmly walked in my room and said, "Stop looking out the window, honey. It's not safe." Then she left and I saw garbage tossed into the air and I could hear the shingles slapping against the roof cause they nearly got ripped off. Pretty obvious it was a tornado, but the next day, my parents acted like nothing happened. We went outside at one point and everything looked the same as it always was, so I don't know if it really happened or if it was a dream. I'll have to ask my mom later and see if she remembers anything about that day.
My sister had this creepy porcelain doll with a black tear on its face in our room. It was a gift from an old aunt and our mom put it away on the top shelf of a bookcase where neither of us could reach it. We constantly told each other ghost stories about how the doll was haunted, was hiding knives, would kill us in our sleep one day. Kinda weird, I know, but we laughed about how freaky it was. Anyway, one morning we woke up and my sister was covered in blood. We pulled off the blankets and she had gashes all over her legs and big sharp pieces of the doll all over the bed. We never figured out how it got off the bookshelf and in the bed, let alone how it smashed into pieces and cut her.
I've not told anyone this before for reasons you'll soon understand, but here it goes. When I was very young, maybe 6 to 7, I had a supernatural sense in locating anything. I first noticed this when my grandmother was asking for her Tetris handheld game device, which looked like a huge Game Boy before Game Boys were a thing. I distinctly remember as if I had a snake's thermal sense leading me to look toward the back of the glass cabinet where the Tetris device was, where I retrieved it for her. Ever since then I used that ability and could find anything my family asked for. I mean everything. Where's my keychain? Oh, bottom of the drawer here. Wristwatch. Fell through the crack between the cupboards. I was supremely confident of that sense because it never failed me. This all ended one day when I moved to a new country and basically started a new life. New furniture, new environment, new friends, new almost everything. I woke up one morning to find my parents looking for my dad's glasses, which he apparently lost when he rolled around the bed during the night. As always, I activated my spidey sense, which led me to the edge of the bed, my dad's side. I felt the glasses were there, right where I was looking at the white sheets edging off to the side of the bed. But I don't see the glasses. I was profoundly confused as to why I cannot find it even though my sense was leading me to that spot. I began questioning whether I really had this supernatural ability. About 5 minutes later my parents found the glasses. They were somehow stuck between the mattress and the box. The kicker was that the location of the glasses was the exact place I was looking at, just the altitude was different. My senses brought me to the point, but I failed to look through the bed and just looked on the surface of the spot that was but a foot above where the glasses were. How could I have thought to look between the layers of the bed? That was the last time I had that sense. I find things with the difficulty of a typical dude ever since. But in the days after I lost that ability I thought that that event somehow disrupted my sense, and thus told myself to never forget this incident because when I grow up I would develop logic and sense and would not believe myself. I was already smart enough to not tell anyone at the time since I was 7 and nobody would believe me anyway. I also knew that I would doubt myself when I grew up, so I needed some rock-solid evidence, or at least an unforgettable incident marked in my memories to remind myself that I was not imagining things. Well, over 20 years later, I still don't know what I'm supposed to think.
I remember, on more than one occasion, hearing a very loud sound. The closest thing I can relate it to was beads pouring out onto a metal table. I remember crying asking my sister to make it stop.
My family had a backyard that connected to another house's backyard. Think of it as the houses standing back to back with a lawn in between. Well, the other house wasn't well kept, the grass was always way too high and we're told not to cross the property line. Well, me being a kid wanted to inspect this hole in the ground. Well, as I got closer I realized the hole was huge. It was a sinkhole. I was laying on my stomach and some of the ground gave away and I fell in. I got up and was standing and my hand just touched the rim of the hole. I remember feeling so terrified that I was stuck in the hole. I asked my parents about this hole and what they did when I fell in. Turns out they have no memory of it at all. Which makes me question if it was even real. The fear from my memory is so real that even now, some 20 years later, I was 6 or 7 at the time. I can remember it very vividly and a lot of details about the hole. It's one of those things that has always bothered me.
I remember an attic and being genuinely afraid of it. I would sleepwalk as a kid and wake up underneath it, more than once having pissed myself. Weird thing was there was always Lego there when I woke up. I'd slept on it and recall it being quite sore. It was over 30 years ago, but I remember one incident with an incredibly lucid dream that still troubles me to this day. I'm fine around attics now, never had a problem anywhere but that house.
When I was about 8 I was playing in front of my friend's house, who lived at the end of a cul-de-sac down the road from my own house. We saw what looked like a familiar car coming slowly towards us, and when it pulled up, it was a light metallic blue Buick sedan like the one my grandpa drove. In the driver's seat was what looked like my grandpa. I mean exactly. He smiled and sort of waved us over in that universal, "Hey, come here," sort of motion, but I just got this really bad feeling and sort of held my friend Chris back, and then we both just bolted up the driveway and stood there. All of the sudden the driver's face just went super blank looking and he turned the car around and drove away. When I got home I told my mom what happened and asked her why Grandpa was being so weird and why he wasn't at our house. She called my grandma, who said that Grandpa had been watching football all day and hadn't left his recliner since the game started.
I still can't say for sure if this is a real memory or just my brain filling in the gaps, but I'm 95% sure it happened. When I was about 4 or 5, I was playing in my front yard alone. An older man approached me asking if I had seen his pet bunny that got out. I remembered I had seen a bunny earlier that morning by the main road, wild field rabbit, so I told him. He kept insisting that I come with him and show him. The part I'm confused about is I vaguely remember him tugging on my arm and trying to pull me towards a car, but I can also visualize him approaching on foot. I know he grabbed me, and I know I told him something like, "I'm not allowed to leave the yard, my mom will get mad," etc. For some reason he let me go and left. I'm not sure if my brain is exaggerating the details, or did I almost get kidnapped.
When I was 10, I was playing with friends in the afternoon. I suddenly saw a giant cat climb a tree. It wasn't just a big cat, like a Maine Coon, and it wasn't like a wild big cat, like a lynx. It was a pet cat that is 3 to 4 times the size of a normal cat. Imagine a cat much bigger than a husky, fatter than a Burmese mountain dog, and it climbed a tree. It was gray and white too. Only me and one of my friends saw it, no one else did. But I knew it was real, because I didn't see it on my own. I still don't know what creature I saw, and it still boggles my mind to this day. I lived in a large city in East Asia as a kid. Let's say, it's very urban.
One day my elder brother came home and it felt as if he is not himself, his face looked different, his behavior seemed malicious and I was very scared when my mother was talking to me and he was standing behind and gave a really creepy smile and somehow nobody realized that this is someone else. I went to sleep, he seemed normal next day.
I swear I saw my friend's dad drill a hole clean through the palm of his own hand. I was pretty young and was mortified at the time.
Pretty sure at one point I was a victim of human trafficking. Not sure if the parents I have are the ones I started with.
Oh wow. Do you mind elaborating?
I just remember being taken out of a house by my now current parents and then never seeing that house again. The house was in the middle of the woods. I remember other people being in the car. And I remember wanting to be in a rush to get out of there. Never really questioned it. Edit, I know it sounds crazy. It's just the earliest memory I have in my life.